Welcome to TechRaptor's Quick Thoughts, a video series dedicated to talking about a specific game. This episode, we're talking about SteamWorld Quest, Hand of Gilgamech, a Switch-only, currently, title by Image and Form. I am joined by Austin Souther and Dan Hodges, two of our staff writers, and why don't we just hop right into it, guys? So, what were you guys' first thoughts? And out of curiosity, have you played Slay the Spire?
No, I haven't played Slay the Spire, even though I know it's something I would really like.
Yeah, I haven't played it either, actually.
And neither have I. So all of us stepped into this game not playing what everybody is pretty much comparing it to in terms of gameplay. So that's interesting. But we all really liked it. I think I've beaten it. Dan, you've beaten it. Austin,
Yep.
You're almost there.
Mm-hmm.
So what stood out to you guys the most about this game?
I mean, I think just the art style made such a good first impression. Like playing it on a Switch, blown up on a TV, it looks really sharp. And if you play it in handheld mode, it looks even better. It's just so colourful and crisp. I think it really makes a great impression.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts about the SteamWorld universe is just the art style for each game. I think Heist was my first introduction, and I'm a big fan of sci-fi and fantasy, so I really like the sci-fi, steampunk aesthetic. And of course, now we're in a more fantasy setting, which surprisingly fits really, really well.
Yeah, this is something that SteamWorld fans have been asking for a long time in terms of moving towards a RPG fantasy setting, and I think that they absolutely crushed expectations.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think they got a really cool spin on it, on the sort of conventional fantasy stuff. Really liked it.
And I enjoyed looking at encountering every new NPC and monster just because I love the character design so much. It's just really cool to see what kind of robots they can make.
They got some cool robots over at
Oh,
Image
yeah.
and Form.
Yeah, there were a lot of very unique robots in this one. I like it. I'm right there with you guys. Absolutely love the art style of the SteamWorld games, and this was a game that I've been very excited for since they announced it.
Yeah, me too, definitely. I love Dig 2, especially. I enjoyed Heist, not as much as other people, I think, but Dig 2, I think that was a great game.
It was a phenomenal platformer, especially if you got that special area there at the end. If you unlocked everything, that was super difficult as a platformer.
Yeah, a really cool game.
So combat wise, I know we talked a little bit before we started recording about how enjoyable it was and how at times it was very difficult even on the normal mode. Austin, I know you said you had like a build that you absolutely loved.
Yeah, so I just first off, I love the versatility. It seems like almost every character you can make a damage dealer or like a tank or a healer. Maybe that's just me, but I kind of had everybody do a specific role. It turned out that what I made, I was very well. I could heal a whole lot, but also do a ton of damage. I guess you could do really whatever you wanted. Maybe I didn't really focus on tanky builds. I just focused more on like healing, and I had like one guy just do a ton of damage on everybody, which is really cool. So for those at home, you can craft decks with cards that you get for each character. So that's what I mean by versatile. You can choose healing cards or damage cards, and there's only a set amount, so you have to be kind of careful what you do. That was probably my most enjoyable aspect. And as someone who tries to enjoy card games like, say, Hearthstone or Elder Scrolls Legends, even though SteamWorld Quest isn't necessarily a card game, I kind of loathe deck building, but for SteamWorld Quest, I found that probably the most enjoyable part, surprisingly.
Yeah, same for me. I really, versatile is definitely the right word. There's so much potential there for, like you say, the different builds, and you get so many different cards for each character. And I did find myself swapping out builds per character quite a lot throughout the game. It was a lot of fun.
Did you guys have 3 specific characters you ran with the most?
Yeah, definitely.
Generally, yeah. But that third one was sort of interchangeable, I think, for me.
Yeah, I pretty much always rolled with Armilli and Galio, and then switched between Copernica and the dude that switches masks.
Yeah,
that guy.
he was probably my favorite out of all of them.
I didn't get into him for some reason. I don't know why. I just never used him, and I never bothered to learn how his system works. So I just, by the time I got to the late game, I was like, how does this work? What's the mask? What? So I just didn't bother.
That's how I was with the twins.
I was the other way around. I really like the twins.
Yeah, and I'm going through on legend mode now, and I think I'm probably going to try rolling with them this time and see how it goes.
They have some cool abilities, I think. They're pretty cool.
I think that the deck building and the cards just made the game so much fun in terms of, what am I going to try this time? Oh, I'm coming up to this. Why don't I try this? Oh, I failed here. Why don't I switch these cards around? And I think that limiting each character to 8 cards definitely makes you have to think harder about your build. Oh, am I going to focus on cards that help me heal more, or am I going to have more cards that help me build up my steam? There's that level of complexity with the build that you have to balance all 3 characters.
The thing that makes it work so well is that the game is actually quite challenging, so the cards actually matter. You can't just pick 8 and go. You have to really think about it. And I find myself coming into an encounter and just getting battered, and then completely redoing my build and going at it again, and you find you have a lot more success, or less, it actually really matters.
Yeah, going off of that, I think that limiting it to 8 cards is definitely the way to go. I feel like if you did 10, that would be too much, but if you did 6, that'd be far too little. I think that they did a good job there, kind of limiting what you can do. And
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think 8 is like the magic number. I think that must be a really difficult game to balance, but I think they did a really good job making it feel just spot on.
Especially like some of the boss encounters too, like there was that perfect level of difficulty, but also not like they weren't super overpowered. So even though I died a couple times on some of them, it never felt like it was too much of a challenge or too little of a challenge. It always felt just right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
definitely.
The traveling merchant is such a phenomenal idea where you can buy your weapons, you can buy recovery items, buy things for crafting cards. And I think that the crafting and the upgrading of the cards is probably what really helps balance the game, especially since you've got a limited number of resources to craft cards and a limited number of resources to upgrade cards. And as you run into the merchant each time, she has different cards for you to craft. So you have to balance it all out and make sure that, should I craft this card? Should I upgrade this card? Because you are pretty limited in how much you can do, unless you go back and play some of the other areas to try and collect more.
I really like her. I think she's a really good character as well. I think I enjoy all the sort of banter between them. Like, how did you get here? Oh, don't worry about it. I just did.
How the heck did you get your card at the top of a castle?
I also like how upgrading cards isn't just like strictly increasing damage or something. Like some of them do more than just kind of what you expect, which is really cool.
Yeah, they had some cool upgrades.
I think that was what really made the card battling system so enjoyable, is the balance that you have to keep in mind. So, am I going to upgrade this character's cards this time so that, maybe I'm better off in the coming fights, or am I going to upgrade everybody's cards and maybe buy some materials to craft more?
Yeah, I like the speaking of the materials, I like the fact that you can sort of grind out money and materials by resting at the save points or whatever, and it respawns all the enemies. I like that as a nice touch, because I find myself grinding quite a lot actually.
I only had to grind once, and that was in a chapter where the statue was at the opposite end of where I had to go back to.
Yeah, sure.
And I had to grind because I just kept dying. So I probably gained like 8 levels because I just kept getting my butt kicked.
So you were forced to grind.
I was forced to grind, but that was the only time I really spent any time grinding during the game.
I think I found myself grinding without even realizing, just because I enjoyed the combat so much. So I wanted to do every single fight, and I was happy to do them again.
Such a huge way to make players not hate grinding.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
But like you said, the combat is so enjoyable that you don't even notice, you don't really care.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
oh, it's just another fight. Let's see how easily I can kick these guys' butts.
Yeah, one thing about these RPGs for me, like, sometimes I start to get really irritated by these fights, but in SteamWorld Quest, I found that, like, they're very brief to me. They're good length, and just because the combat is so enjoyable, like, I'm like, okay, I'm looking forward to the next fight.
And I don't know about you guys, but the ability to speed up the animations was a real lifesaver for me.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I just had that on like all the time. There's like an option in the settings that you just it's automatic, it's default, and I just had that on eventually.
I didn't figure out that you could toggle that until the end of the
Oh,
game.
right.
Yeah,
So I was
so-
holding down the button like throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I think I did that for like the first 5 chapters, and then I found that setting, and I was like, I'll just turn it on.
Yeah, I did it until the last 2.
Yeah, go into the options, turn that on before you start.
Yeah, you can. There's also an option to, instead of having to hold Y to drop cards, you can actually turn it on so it's just a click.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, because you can like redraw cards, can't you? You get 3 cards every turn, and you can redraw. Is it 2 cards every turn?
2, and then Copernica had a specific
that's right,
tone
yeah.
that let you do 3, which was super nice at times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. She had a lot of cards like that, cards that will affect the way that the deck shuffles and stuff. I like that. They had some interesting effects. They weren't just strictly combat. You know?
Yeah, they all were super interesting cards.
Another part of the combat that I really enjoyed that we haven't really touched on is like when you play 3 cards in a row for one character, they have
Yes.
this special move.
Yes.
I think that was integral to succeeding in combat, and
Yeah,
I thought that was a really cool inclusion as well.
yeah, I love that mechanic. It's so satisfying to pull those off. Even if it means you have to put in one card that isn't so good, just so you can get the 4th one. I like that a lot.
Copernica's like barrier ability on everybody.
That is so strong.
Yeah, that's one way that I was able to last longer in battles. So that's a good tip. Definitely try that out.
I definitely rolled with that ability for the whole time,
Yeah, me too.
just because it was so helpful. With some of the boss fights where they would do a significant amount of damage, it would just kind of buffer that for a bit. And I also primarily used Galio's ability that let him increase shield and heal the party a bit.
That was a good one. Yeah.
I made Galio like my dedicated healer, which is kind of interesting because at first glance he seemed more like this bruiser tank type, but he has a lot of repair abilities. Regeneration was a godsend.
Yeah, he was sort of a healer, but also a bit of a support as well for me, I think, because he has a lot of defense buffs and debuffs and stuff. So he's quite versatile. I like that. You could potentially build him as a damage dealer as well. Like that's just how versatile the deck building is in this game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's impressive how versatile each character is. You can have Galio as a healer, or you can have him as a damage dealer, or you can try and do a little bit of both, or you could have, say, Copernica as a full damage dealer, or you can also give her the abilities that kind of tear down your enemies.
Apart from Armelia, I think, I don't know about you guys, but I guess she's sort of like the protagonist, so she sort of has a more limited moveset. Like, she basically only is a damage dealer.
Yeah, I don't think you can make her a healer.
No.
I don't recall any healing abilities, or if there are, there's very few. She might also be able to be a tank.
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
sure.
she had taunt, and she had a couple self-healing abilities, but she was definitely primarily a damage dealer for me. And at the end there was a specific item that increased your strength by 5% for every extra Steam cog you had. So I was just rolling at the end with her because I put it on her, and then I would just build up a bunch of Steam and then use her best abilities.
I don't think we've actually talked about the cog system. You just reminded me, like how all these free cards generally generate pressure, I think it's called, and then the pressure is spent on more powerful abilities, which I think was an interesting way to balance it, because it means you have to really balance your deck between cheap cards that generate and actually having the cogs to use these abilities.
Yeah, the cog system was so important in terms of balancing your deck.
Oh yeah, I mean you could easily end up just in a lot of trouble in fights if you have a whole bunch of cards requiring 2 or 3. So I found myself actually having a lot of cards that just gave me Steam instead of spending it, and I found that was really effective.
Yeah, it was important to balance your cog creation for your abilities and having abilities that weren't too expensive. I think most of my characters rolled with either 2 or 3 abilities rather than some of the ones that required like 5. I think at
Yeah.
the end I ran with one of Copernica's that required 5 just because it did so much damage.
Yeah, that is a really strong one, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
But at the same time, it's super strong, but it also gives the character a debuff. So it has that balance. Like, oh, you can use this card, but at the same time, you're going to be hampering yourself a bit. I know we can touch on the arena a little bit under the embargo. I can't show it, unfortunately, but after one of the chapters, you unlock the arena. And Dan, I think you've spent a little bit of time in there.
Well, the arena, I think you unlock it through the story. I won't spoil the specifics, but once you've unlocked it through the story, you can go to it in between missions or in between chapters, and it just has a series of gauntlets, series of like 5-round challenges you can do, and they get increasingly harder. And there's some really cool challenges, because the harder you get, they start adding different factors into it. Like I think one of them was like everyone, you and the enemies, all have like extreme magic vulnerability and stuff, so you want to build your deck around that. So there was some really cool stuff in there. Actually, you should definitely check that out.
Yeah, it's a nice added bonus to the full story.
Yeah, it really is, because the combat being as strong as it is, it's nice to have some extra combat challenges to go back to.
I think that would be a good area for them to do more DLC.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely play some for that.
That's one thing I look forward to, because I know in at least SteamWorld Heist they had some DLC packs which were very nice, and I think that this game would, just being an RPG, would fit really well with DLC.
I would hope they've got some plans, because I would definitely jump back into that world.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. The SteamWorld in general, between all of the games, is just downright phenomenal to hop into. And they give all the characters so much personality. I don't think we ran into any characters that, at least in this game, that were just kind of like, oh, okay. They were all just, they all had this personality that a lot of times kind of made you chuckle.
Yeah, I think the writing in this game is really great. The image and form writing has always been pretty good, but I think this is really like top notch even for them. Really good stuff.
They definitely went above and beyond with this one, and the guild heroes always cracked me up.
Yeah,
definitely. I think all the characters in general, it's just such a great cast. Like, even if you don't use them all in combat, you grow attached to them anyway, just through all their conversations and stuff.
Exactly, because even though you may not have them in your party, they're still, I guess, technically traveling with you. So for a lot of the cutscenes, that everybody is there, everybody is contributing to the conversation. So you never, by choosing 3 that maybe you stick with throughout the whole game, you don't miss anything from any of the other characters.
No.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad ditching R. Millie, but yeah, I mean, she's like basically the main character, or it seemed like, and I'm just not using her. But she's still there, so like you don't really have to worry about dropping them. Just it really lets you be and play who you want to use.
It's super important.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting choice that party members only get XP if they're in combat. So if you don't use someone for a while, they'll start to fall behind. And I guess you'd have to... I think there was like an item you could buy that would increase experience gain.
Yeah, there was one that would increase experience gain by 50%. And the lower level that character was versus your other characters, it would actually increase.
That's a cool thing.
Yeah, it makes it really easy to catch up.
Yeah. Because they can fall behind.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
By the end, the one guy I wasn't using was like really low level.
I think I finished the game around level 45, 46.
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
And the nice thing about the level increases too is, it's not anything specific. So every level, it's either your strength is going up, your health is going up, or your magic is going up. So it's one of those things that you can upgrade your cards bit by bit, but you really have to level in order to keep increasing that damage.
I enjoy that general curve of just the numbers just gradually getting bigger. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, it's an RPG.
Old RPG stuff. Yep, exactly. Make those numbers bigger. I don't know about you, but I thought the music was pretty fantastic.
Oh man, the music, top notch.
The combat music is pretty amazing. It's some of the best like RPG combat music I've heard in a while.
There's some bangers in there.
And I like the way that it changes up on the environments. Like early on, it's all these like shredding guitars, and then you go to like the college or whatever, it's a bit more like low key, and ominous, and yeah, there's some really good music in that game.
Yeah, the music matched the environment so perfectly.
I would totally listen to that soundtrack outside of the game, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that you could definitely just put on in the background, and it's just nice to have there.
Release it on Spotify, please.
But from a, first impressions, or I guess verdict standpoint, $24.99 Switch only right now. I'm sure, knowing Image and Form, it's going to come to PC. Recommendations?
Strong, very strong. If you like anything, no, if you like RPGs, I wouldn't even say you have to like card games. Like you were saying before, Austin, like I'm not a huge card game guy either, and I really, really love the combat in this game. So I don't think you really have to have an appreciation for card games. If you just enjoy like a good, well-made combat system, then you'll dig what they have here.
Yeah, if you're an RPG fan, get it. I'm not even a big card fan, as I and Dan said, but don't let that set you back. Definitely give it a try. It's really easy to get the hang of, so don't let that intimidate you. Overall, I would give it 2 thumbs up.
Well, I gave it 9 thumbs up in my review, which will probably be up by the time this goes up.
Yeah, I mean, this game, phenomenal. I haven't played Slay the Spire, but based on what I know, if you like Slay the Spire, you're going to like this game.
Yeah, now I played this, I know I need to play that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've been waiting for that to come out on Switch before I bought it, because there's just something about playing this type of game on the Switch.
Yeah, I might have to follow you there.
So those are our quick thoughts on SteamWorld Quest, Hand of Gilgamech. If you like this video, please take a moment to give us a like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more quick thoughts videos.